to the chaos that is the Family Gaming Experience. Hopefully the chaos at home is less chaotic than it is here at the moment. I have to get like the wiggles out because I like feel. Anyway, welcome to tonight's episode of the Family Gaming Experience. We are joined by some absolutely incredible people. As always, we have the wonderful Jerome from Lost Tribe Gaming. We have Abby from Chaos. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself and stuff. I just want, whatever, it's fine. We have Abby from Thomas of the Chaos Bard and Thomas from My Cast Fireball. We are super excited. This is our second episode of this incredible show that has had some hiccups and some wonderful miracles that have happened. So we're so thankful to be able to be here with you tonight. Weston, would you like to introduce our new intro that we forgot to do last time?
Welcome to this episode of the Family Gaming Experience.
I know we remember this time. It's very exciting. Okay, so that was our brand new intro, and we freaking love it because this is our cute little dragon. And Thomas didn't mean to, but he was totally in theme because he has a dragon on the back of his wall, which is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's go through quick intros and tell me who you are. Tell the wonderful viewers who you are, where you come from, your social security number, and your birthday. Please, let's start with Thomas.
Leave off the social security number.
Yeah, so I'm Thomas. I am the DM for I Cast Fireball. We are an actual play 5e D&D adventure. We go through the campaign Tyranny of Dragons. I'm one of 4 cast members where I have 3 players, wonderful players, that like to cause me a lot of grief and stress in and out of game.
Super fun. Where can they find your show?
Oh, yes, they can find us on all major podcatchers, so like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are just an audio-only podcast currently, and so you can find us or follow us at iCastFireball20 or shoot us an email at icastfireball2020@gmail.com.
Nice. Abby, your lovely beautifulness, where are you from?
I am shooting in the bonus room in Utah in my house. And I am one of 6 cast members from the show Tones of the Chaos Bard, an all-ages actual play podcast with original songs and music written by my good friend D.A. Nichols. And we have a jolly good time.
Yes, you do. You guys both have awesome podcasts that sound like you have crazy amounts of fun.
Yes. You can find us on pretty much all podcatchers. If not, shoot me an email at chaosbardpod@gmail.com. We should be on the majority of them.
There are so many, though. It's almost impossible to have your show available on everything. There's just way too many at this point. Yeah. There used to be like 3. Do you remember back in the olden days?
Yeah, back in the old days. Yeah, it was 3. Yeah.
People.
We also.
Hey now.
We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just type in Chaos. Tomes of the Chaos Bard.
Yep, you guys are the only people that come up when you type.
We are the only. We actually looked at Google the other day, and we cover the first page and the half of the second page.
That's really good.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
We still don't even come up until like page 5. Our SEO is really bad. Anyway, Jerome. If anyone hasn't seen the show before, Jerome is one of our permanent co-hosts of the 3 of us. Jerome, who are you and where are you from?
I'm Jerome, as she said. I am the Hoarder of the Stars from Little Dragons Below. Yes, I won again. Thank you very much.
Did you really?
He loves to win those.
I know, you're so all about the stars and the bombs.
I can't help it if I want my dragon to look like he probably came from Twilight. Thank you very much.
Nice. Okay.
But
it won't be as cool as Thomas's dragon behind him, though.
No,
Oh,
probably.
yeah, definitely.
Probably
No,
not.
nowhere near as cool, especially since he's related to the person who did it. So it's like he can always get updates. No
Yeah,
problem.
yours will always be cooler.
Yeah. So mine's limited by some very minute pixels. But my name is Jerome. I'm the head storyteller over at Lost Tribes Gaming. I run our Marvel superheroes game, Modern Age Heroes, on Saturdays, and our Vampire the Masquerade Ashland by Night game on Fridays.
Cool.
And that is me.
That is the awesomeness that is Jerome Weston. Why don't you introduce the both of us since I'm talking a lot?
It's okay. I'm looking at tech a lot. So I am Weston Bell, one of the hosts here of one of the two people from Party of 2RPG, which is hosting this right now. So me and Haley have our one-on-one duet show most Fridays, and then Tabletop Terrain Talks on Mondays, where we talk about tabletop gaming, terrain, and other nerdy things. I will let Haley claim her place on the interwebs.
We are the Twitch resident nerdy couple, and we will fight anyone who wants to take over the title.
I do want to say,
PvP.
for anyone on, we are experiencing some internet issues tonight.
No, we're not.
From time to time.
Not anymore.
So if we do drop for a moment, don't leave, because we will be right back. So,
After these messages.
from our little dragon.
Yes, speaking of, if you feel so inclined and would love to sponsor this show, we would love to hear from you. Please let us know, and you can sponsor the show. That's all. Okay, so tonight's topic of conversation is podcasting and actual plays. There are 1,000 podcasts out there that are doing actual plays of every type of TTRPG system that you can find. However, the most popular, the number one, is D&D out of all of the gaming systems. Does everybody agree on that one?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no way around it.
100%, Yeah.
No, even though there are other
Yeah.
ones that are cooler than D&D.
Them's fighting words, Haley.
Hey, you played Pathfinder. I remember more than once where you were like, "Oh, this is really cool," when you were building your character. I wish D&D had this.
Well, and
True.
I know I
But
cast
not
Fireball.
everybody can start with Pathfinder.
I know.
D&D 5e is the gateway to TTRPGs.
Gateway drug.
And I know that I roll 20. You guys have, or I cast Fireball. It's a 20 at the end of the thing.
Yeah.
I cast Fireball. You guys have Improv. What's your sister show? It's run by Ned.
Yeah.
Improv tabletop. Sorry.
Improv Tabletop is our sister show. Absolutely. They go through kind of a mashup of Fate Accelerated
Yes.
tabletop system.
Oh, neat.
So there's Fate, then there's like Fate Light, and then there's even more lighter system of Fate Accelerated, and that's what we use. But then they also just started the recently kickstarted Avatar Legends tabletop
Oh,
campaign.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
one
much
I really want to play that one.
So much fun.
And the Dragon Prince one.
Yes, the
And-
Dragon Prince one looks really good. We covered that in
We
TTRPG
did.
News. I don't know if you remember that.
But yeah, because I mean, there are other systems out there. I know, we've played a couple of them. I haven't played all of them. I have not played Fate as of yet. But as we said, D&D, there are definitely more shows in doing D&D than anything else.
Yes, but the interesting thing, and Abby and Thomas, I would love you guys to talk about this. Sorry, my eye is watering. You're so
It's okay,
beautiful. You guys are so great. Why family friendly? So I going to throw this to Abby, to you first.
Okay.
When did you? I'm gonna throw it at your face. When did you discover that you loved D&D, and what prompted you guys to start a family-friendly podcast?
It's a great question. So we started Dungeons and Dragons 5e 5 years ago, and it was introduced to us by our high school friends. I have to admit, it took them like 9 months to convince us to do it. Well, we had just had a baby and all sorts of other
yeah.
things too, and
That
it
totally
was
makes
just
sense.
like and lots of things. Just like, nah, that's too nerdy. Nah, that's too hard. Just nah. And then we played one game and we're like, sold. So, it was about a year later, David started dungeon mastering. He really wanted to try it. David hates being the center of attention. Like,
He
hates it.
He's the sit on the corner, hold the wall up kind of individual.
Yeah.
We love him.
And yes. But he really wanted to try DMing. He did a really fantastic job. And then that campaign ended. Sorry, this is really long. That campaign ended with a PC killing another PC because he was taken over by an evil sword, and so it ended. Ooh. And then it started another one, and that one also was hitting like a wall. But it was at that time we had started recording because David also hates taking notes. So
I'll just go back and listen to it.
That is one nice thing about recording.
I only laugh because I relate to that so well.
Yeah.
Well,
so we started recording on this dingy little SD card recorder that we just sat in the middle of the room because you know how big our room is. So.
Yes.
Yeah,
they have
it's
a very
massive.
large.
You have a vaulted living room, which is where you record.
Yeah, so audio, but we're doing good with it. But so we started recording them, and I started listening, and I was like, David, we really have something here. We really need to share this, and he was like, and he's like, I don't want to DM for the world. I'm like, no, but we gotta share this story, and with a much wife convincing, he finally, with some contemplation and prayer, he's like, no, I feel this is right. Let's do it. And we took the dive, and we bought the wrong equipment first, and then, all that fun stuff. We listened to several podcasts about how to start a podcast. But back to the original question, because that was really long. What started us? Family friendly. All our favorite actual play podcasts that we were listening to at the time taught us so much about the rules, and they were all family friendly because we personally don't like to hear a lot of what we would consider garbage, though it's not garbage to everybody, but it was hard for us to listen to, and I listen rarely with my headphones on because I need to know if there's like a crash in the living room with my children. So
or if it gets too quiet in the house.
Or if it gets too quiet. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Way worse.
So, and we loved sharing it with my brothers and sisters and my parents, and we would just like geek out about our podcasts that we listened to. And unfortunately, because of COVID, the majority of the ones we listened to just ended. And we're like,
that's true.
Ooh, there is this gap we should take advantage of. And it fits in with our values, and so we went for it, and we had hiccups, but we love it.
I don't think there's anyone that has started a podcast that was genuinely grassroots starting a podcast that didn't have problems.
No.
We have zero experience, and now we have a lot more. I mean, I'm a communication major, so I was like, I got social media stuff. I can figure that stuff out. I can figure it out. But the actual recording of it, tech, as you know, is not my friend.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Weston, I don't think our show would have gone. I was a podcast producer before, but I only did one track podcast production. So doing the multiple tracks with the sound and everything, like if it was not for Weston, we would have crashed and burned really, really early on.
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of research, but experience pays a hand.
Yeah, and you guys are all together in the same room. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, there's 6 of us in a room. Yeah. And I mean, in vaulted ceilings in a large room. On not carpet.
Hard.
No, thank you.
Hard.
Yeah.
So Thomas, you guys are a little different though, right? You guys are all separate, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us about your journey.
We wanted to segregate ourselves as much as possible, so we all moved to a different state basically once we graduated from college.
Great. So were you guys playing during college? Like,
yeah,
were you guys a normal group?
go ahead.
Were you guys like a normal group? Then?
So a little bit. Yeah, so a little bit. We were I had introduced D&D to everybody, and I say D&D, but I should repent and say Pathfinder because that's what we started on. We all started with Pathfinder First Edition.
Oh my gosh! Have you been telling people this whole time that you started with D&D?
We fell in love with it.
Have you been telling everyone?
We've been talking. I just say D&D for the non-initiates to tabletop RPG, but anybody who actually knows tabletop systems, we say that we started on Pathfinder.
It's like saying a Kleenex, you know.
And we fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Exactly.
Well, that is technically D&D 3.75.
No,
yeah, that's
it's
true.
Pathfinder.
That's true. It's just right between.
Yeah.
It says Pathfinder.
But yeah, so we.
Sorry.
So I had introduced everybody to Pathfinder in one way or another, whether it was just by a one shot, whether it was doing an ongoing campaign. We did the Rise of the Rune Lords.
Oh yeah,
I basically had a lot of exposure. Such an amazing campaign, such an amazing adventure path. But I had recently gotten back into it after years, like a decade hiatus from just tabletop gaming in general, and I tried making a bunch of friends DM for me, or GM at that point, and none of them wanted to, so I said, all right, I guess I'll do it myself. And
Such the plight of being the DM.
Seriously,
Yeah.
though.
And so I have been a DM ever since. But I introduced most everybody to tabletop gaming in general, and so then when we broke off, me and Ned, who does improv tabletop, and is one of the players in I Cast Fireball. We really wanted to get the topic
Yeah,
down.
Flippo.
Yeah, Weston is hilarious because he'll be listening to your show and then he'll pull out his earbuds and like tell me what just happened, and he is like dying, and I'm like, "Yep, babe, that's awesome, fantastic."
You have a very funny cast. The interaction there between Malamara, Lansdalen, and Fleeple is very good.
They are really cute, and we did listen to both of your guys' shows actually when we went on our trip to Washington.
Wyoming.
And
They're both
our
W's.
the W state. And our oldest actually was like, he would switch off like between what he wanted to fall asleep listening to. Either I Cast Fireball or Tomes of the Chaos Bard. And that is 100% a compliment because he only listens to things he really likes to fall asleep to, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Harry Potter or whatever. So it was like, I was like, I'm so excited to share that with you guys. So what made you guys decide?
Well, I hope
Thomas,
we actually helped him fall asleep. But yeah.
Well, we did kind of get to a place where we were like, you cannot listen to this anymore. It keeps you awake. You're too engaged.
Yeah.
That was part of why we wanted to start the podcast. Going back to the question is that we wanted families to listen together and have memories together.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So Thomas, what made you guys decide you wanted to start I Cast Fireball specifically?
Yeah, so sorry to be so long in this answer,
No,
but
it's okay.
No worries.
Love it.
specifically to start a podcast, I think I share a lot of the sentiment that's been described here today. Is just like there's some great stuff. I didn't really visualize what tabletop gaming actually was until I saw Matthew Mercer do the one shot with Vin Diesel, Diesel, way back like 2015.
Yeah, the celebrity.
That
was
D&D.
great.
When I watched that 30 minutes,
Mhm.
when I saw that 30 minutes, I was like, what have I been playing for X amount of years? That's
You're
not
like,
what I've
that's
been
not the
playing.
same
That's so much
game.
more engaging to me. Yeah, that's way more fun than what I've been playing with these chums over here. And so that's when I wanted to start becoming a game master and start exploring what that actually was. Because at the same time, we all did some sort of like improv, which we talk about on our podcast and some of our Meet and Geek stuff. And we all have like theater backgrounds and stuff. So we really like just engaging stories. And that's what we really wanted to start with a podcast. We wanted to tell an engaging story that people could follow along with a cast that was engaging and fun enough to where it wasn't just like exposition.
Yes.
Right.
But then the
yeah.
big focal point is a lot of the main properties that do tell engaging stories are incredibly explicit. Whatever that
Yes.
whatever it may be,
Uh-huh.
they're just incredibly explicit in one way or another.
Yeah.
Or
And so I was like,
political.
man. or political, either way. But if I just kept telling myself, if only they would take out this or this or
Yes.
this, I
Yeah.
would be there in a heartbeat. I would be supporting them. I'd be listening so much. And so I was like,
Mhm.
well, Sneak Attack back in the day was the only one I was really
Yes,
I really
that's
found.
what got yes. Mhm.
Yes, and so hearing them, me and Ned, like, would every week we'd listen and we'd go back and forth and we'd be like, man, we could totally do this. I think we could do this, and this would be like a ton of fun. And so we use them kind of as our framework. And I whenever somebody calls us family friendly, I always like want to clarify and just say, I don't know if our violence would be considered family friendly, but you could definitely call us
Uh-huh.
non-explicit. So
PG-13.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd
was
say PG-13.
I
Yeah.
was listening to one of your early episodes, and I'm like, this is family friendly, but you started with a drinking contest. Because I remember GMing for our family, Rise of the Rune Lords. First, when I started GMing, same thing, Pathfinder First Edition with our 9-year-old. And there's the bar, and they put, they're serving this alcohol, and all of a sudden I pause. And I hadn't even thought of it when I was prepping for the session that night. I'm like,
Oh.
and you could buy apple cider there for a cup. Like, suddenly
It
I'm
was-
like,
it was
crud, I
really
didn't
funny.
even, like, in a fantasy setting, 9 times out of 10, you have the tavern and you have the ale you're drinking, but then suddenly I had in my mind, I'm just telling my kid to role play that he's drinking alcohol in a bar. Pause.
Wait a second.
But there's also that disconnect. I mean, we've watched with our kids plenty of things, and you're like, the kid also doesn't get it necessarily.
No,
Like,
not to the same level. I remember being really little and thinking ale was something very different than alcohol,
Yes.
like beer. Like I know, like I know that it's two different drinks. I didn't realize it was alcoholic. I thought it was like, in my head, it was like something
It's like
that
butterbeer.
fantasy people drink.
It's like butterbeer from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like,
which is not beer,
it's not.
It's not.
but like, I mean, the actual recipe, there is no alcohol in it, but
I love what Illustrar 003 said. The nice thing is, in the fantasy world, you can make up whatever exotic beverage you want.
it's true. It's
true.
very
This
true.
is true.
There you go.
Well, it's like I think about curse words and explicit behavior. I mean, I was a big fan of the Wheel of Time books, and that he's got his own curse words, his own things that are cursing in the book, and then he could do all he could have blood and bloody ashes, and everyone's like, and it's like, I don't mind if my kid just started walking around saying things like that, I'd be like, sounds good to me.
I think that kind of stuff isn't that like the whole point of like doing your
One
own...
of my favorite pretend ones is from Jackie Chan Adventures, with the uncle goes, "Aya, Jackie!" Yes. So whenever that's what I do.
I used to use that character a lot in my Street Fighter games that I would run, and he was like the wizened old mentor that they would come up to, and every so often, he would flap them with like his pinky, so like, one more thing.
Oh, come on! It's got to be a
Get them
sandal.
to remind. Yeah. Oh well, I mean, yeah.
It should
You
be
could
the
always
same.
break out a chancla.
No,
Actually,
true.
to your point about about mixing it up like that, I found that I was doing that a lot with my superhero game. It's a little derivative because it's all completely custom, but I've taken a lot of note from 90s Marvel with a lot of the plot is very similar to mutants, so we're kind of exploring the racism angle, but they're called deviants here, which in a way sounds kind of just as derisive, in that sense. And so I've taken some of their slang from Marvel and reused it to drive home the point of that racism, like Gene Joke and Flat Scan are ones that they use for non-mutants. or whatnot. So it's a good way to mix it up, but then again, you're not being overtly vulgar, like what we're
Right.
talking about. So you're still driving home the point that this is not a nice statement, but you're also not hitting red flags and like dropping F-bombs or something all over the place.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Well, when Weston and I started our show, I was a little bit more liberal with the language, just slightly. And
Same here.
It was when our then 8-year-old, he's about to turn 9, but when he started listening to the show, that was when I was like, oh no, I need to stop swearing. He's listening to me say bad words. And now he's 100%. If I ever say a bad word, he's like all over me
Yes, he is.
about it. He's like, Mama. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, yes, you're right. I
Oh,
said
so
a bad
he's
word.
like the little boy from Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
He's like, oh, you said F.
Yes.
Yes, that is exactly
Yeah,
what
he's
it's
like-
like.
Exactly.
It is
But
so
he
funny.
didn't say fudge. It was the
Well, you know,
granddaddy of all
Yeah,
curse words.
Exactly.
And that's one reason why I don't necessarily state that we are a family friendly podcast, because there can be a lot of definitions, and depending on your family, there's a lot of stuff that you would consider family friendly. And so that's why I describe us as a non-explicit, specifically because we try not to get the language in there. We try to keep we had somebody review our podcast very early on, which I thought was a very apt description. They said, they're this, great storytelling, and they strive to be family friendly. And I was like, you know what? I think that's a great description about us. We strive to be
Yeah,
family
I
friendly.
like
We don't
that.
always get there.
Yeah,
I remember.
We
there's
have
this-
an-
Point.
We have a specific episode saying that we sometimes go PG-13, but we usually have a warning in the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode saying, this is a little bit violent. Usually Solemn says something like,
Yeah.
"Well,
Well,
so-
you guys have that built into your show, that there is that person that
Yeah.
can talk, the omnipotent, like god-like creature that can
Oh, he's
talk.
very godly.
Very-
He knows.
He thinks he's very cool.
No,
Oh
but
my gosh.
I remember listening to one of your early episodes of iCast Fireball, and I don't remember what it is. Lance Thalen was talking, and suddenly he started going direction. And all of a sudden, you all stopped, and you're like, "Wait, no, family friendly. We're wanting to be family friendly, so we won't go there."
Yeah.
It's true, but
Yeah.
I think it's I do agree with you, Thomas, that there is a very different idea of what family friendly is depending on what you as parents or guardians feel is appropriate for your family. Was like for us, we're gonna, in our new show that we're gonna be starting
Yes.
in the fall, it deals very heavily with mental illness and how to have good mental health and whatnot. And we are going to have a warning at the beginning of every episode, but there is not going to be explicit sexual language or sex or language or anything like that.
Right.
But the themes that we're going to be dealing with are pretty heavy.
Yeah, I built some mechanics
Yeah.
to simulate the effects of depression and anxiety or OCD or stuff like that based on alignments. So the whole alignment system is just chaos
It's
to
chaos to
order.
order.
And if you're on the chaos side, you start seeing symptoms similar to having anxiety or depression. If you're on too far on the order side, suddenly you go OCD. You know, if you're I'm high on order, I have a bonus to my intelligence, a negative to my charisma, but I have to, if I walk by a cart and I see that things are out of order, I have to stop and organize them, or I have to like roll a will save in order to walk away from it. And there will be, some serious topics.
Yeah, but it's never going to get into an area where you would feel uncomfortable, like with young ears, as they say, being in the room.
Yeah.
It will probably mostly go over their head.
Exactly.
Most of it probably will.
Mostly.
But so along with those lines, do you guys have topics that you 100% are like, we are not going to talk about this? Like, this is not something that we're ever going to address in our show.
We had. Oh, go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of topics that we're not going to talk about in that we don't find necessary to tell an engaging story. Again, that was like our big push right when we got out is we don't feel like it's any sort of like anything sexual needs to be discussed to have a compelling story, whether that's just in any form. Language, as I described, doesn't really need to be there to tell that compelling story. Those are just the easy ones off the top of my head. I can't really think of any other like big ones.
Yeah, question for you. You guys are running a module, so you're written a pre-written adventure there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that is in, I haven't run or looked at Tyranny of Dragons, is there anything in the modules that you've been like, we're going to cut that out? I know in Rise of the Rune Lords, there was a section I had to cut out.
There was a lot of like graphic violence.
I know what section you're talking about too.
No, I'm not talking about that either. There's a scene where
I was a player. I don't know what was cut out.
The daughter of one of the guy's daughters in the city tries to seduce you.
Oh wait, you did tell me about
I told
that.
You about that. Yeah, I just of course
we skipped that
nope,
part.
We're not
that
even
was
addressing
yeeted right
this.
out there.
But I'm just wondering in this module, because most D&D modules I imagine are written for a slightly older audience, more teenage years. So is there anything in this module that you found you've had to kind of either not do that or just skirt around it?
So thankfully, I haven't come across anything like that. I've read the book like once all the way through, but that was probably a year ago. So I can't remember everything. If I did, I was like, I'll get to that when we get to that, and we'll figure out what to do then. Nothing yet. And although we are using the Tyranny of Dragons module, we actually took like a hard left once Candlekeep Mysteries book came out, and then we just started doing some of that, and now we're doing like our current episodes that are releasing right now is just like I just said, hey, what if I just create a dungeon and stuff? So like there's my players thankfully give me a lot of flexibility to include or exclude a lot of stuff from these modules specifically. So for us, it's not a big deal if we have to forget something or remove something like that. But if there was something that had come up, we would obviously I would try to approach it by saying, okay, what is the point of having this situation or having this story moment, this beat in the module, and what can I replace it with that would still have the same gravitas or the same weight without it being this specific thing, whether it be a sacrifice or slavery or anything sexual in nature? Can I replace it with something like intense bullying that or things like that, where it's like, oh, there's a fine that they're going to throw you into jail that could have a similar weight to where I could just replace them.
Okay, makes sense.
No, I think that's really good. Abby, with you guys, I know that you recently have you guys are doing your own thing. It's a homebrewed game.
Yes.
And it's is it a homebrewed world too?
Yes, everything's homebrew.
Everything is all of the homebrew.
Everything.
But I know you guys recently discussed your character Henley and her kind of PTSD trauma in the situation that you guys were in. I don't want to give anything away.
Actually, that episode comes out on Friday. So that's scary.
I kind of gave something away. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. They don't know.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
And there was your TTRPG
breaking
news.
Yeah, there's your TTRPG news. Haley has a big mouth. Big surprise.
No,
but how do you guys approach that when you're like versus having a module where it kind of like moves you through and you can, as the GM, do what you want and then you can kind of come back? You guys are dealing with like it on the fly and Davis having to like figure out what to do with all of these things. How have you guys integrated something as serious as PTSD into your storyline and still keep it within bounds where it's not like everybody wants to go cry into a pillow afterwards?
That is a hard question.
That's why I get paid the big bucks, folks.
Wait, you started getting paid?
Shh.
First of all,
Yeah. If you want to sponsor the show.
I play Henley, and I did a ton of research on PTSD, and so I could play appropriately. But a lot of it is in her head, so not a lot of it comes out. And Henley isn't super articulate either. She's also like only 21, so she's still pretty young, but the intensity is still there, and I feel though kids they pick up on words, they pick up more on the emotion behind it.
True.
So to keep it more family friendly, the intensity is still there. Like, especially in this next episode, we also have a Henley's theme will be revealed too. She has a song that was written for just a underscore, but it's beautiful. But
Love that.
it's also really hard to play a character that has PTSD because you're like, you come to gaming like as an escape from the world, and yeah.
But we all kind of,
That's a good point.
I feel like we all
Yeah.
kind of gravitate towards that like dramatic, tortured soul. Like, oh,
Well, there's a
I
desire
generally don't. I generally am the mom character, but I was
I
like,
have become the mom
I'm
character. I didn't
always
think I
the
would
mom
be.
character.
In all of the
but-
one shots I've done, in like every guest appearance I've done, I become the mom. Like,
Yes,
I don't
yeah.
understand how that happens.
You're a mom.
Except
It's
for
a-
Because
Izzy,
we're
the
moms.
only character I've created that has not been a mom is Izzy, and that was my first one. Anyway,
I made Henley to not be the mom to force the other less experienced players to step up and become more leaders. So I knew I had to play a character that had issues. Henley, weirdly enough, is the only one that has a really dark backstory.
Well, that's where, yeah, you can tell compelling stories. You can, without getting into inappropriate content. And then you can also choose to go extremely light. I mean, it really is
Yeah.
something that is up to, and this is the beauty of tabletop RPGs, is that whatever story you want to tell, you can tell it.
for
There's
sure.
no one that can tell you can't tell that story.
No, that is very true. And it all depends on what you want on your table, because it's your guys' table. And with that, we are going to take a 5-minute break. That was a horrible transition, but we're going to go with it. That's fine.
We're going to let our guests go use the restroom and stuff like that, and you can go. We'll be back in 5.
Yes. And enjoy our adorable little dragon.
Don't miss us too much.
No, it's only 5 minutes worth of missing. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the break. Just as a quick reminder, we are talking about podcasts and D&D, not AD&D. Where did that come from?
Because you're
I have
ADHD.
ADHD really bad. Sorry, we're going on a trip tomorrow to Colorado, and so I'm like, my brain is like, every squirrel possibility is happening right now. Stop.
Where's Doug?
Just keep picking up stuff and like moving it off camera. So that
So on the camera, I'm just
You're
doing
so
this
rude.
with a pen, and
So-
she's like, "What? Oh,
so rude. Okay, so I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you guys this, but I don't know if I'm going to. Oh wait, I am. I hate it when people do that.
I was like,
I'd
when
to
are you
thank
fearful
you.
about asking questions?
Well, like, I would like to thank you, but I'm not going to thank you, but I would like to. Like, I hate it when people do that, especially in church. We would like to thank. Okay, well then just thank them. Say thank you. Sorry, pet peeve. Moving on.
okay. Hey, take the
What?
soapbox, move it to the side. Get off of it first. Move it to the side. Come back to the show.
What are some really memorable moments that you guys have? This is a question for everybody. From either GMing or playing, it could be from your current show or game or something that's happened in the past, but something that has stuck with you throughout your gaming.
Keep on.
I have a funny one and a serious one.
Okay.
First is Boudreaux's bubble bath. That was hilarious.
I don't think
Like-
I got into that scene.
No, it's 34 35 or 36.
Okay, yeah, I'm not that far yet.
Hold on a second. I'm being a horrible host. Jerome, you had a question.
No, it's okay. You
Let
already
her
asked. Go
finish
right
this
ahead.
first.
Yeah, go
Okay,
right on
fine.
into it.
I will not. I will take back my interruption. Abby, go ahead.
So a little bit of context. In order to get into a party, Boudreaux had to get a bath because he's like this
He smells.
He's filthy.
dirty, filthy, wears a gator cloak, like cleric. and he's hilarious with his Cajun accent and everything. Is amazing.
Oh, I was about to ask if he. Okay, cool.
Oh, he
right on.
definitely has the Cajun accent.
It's
Yes,
sick,
water
it's
boy.
fun.
Yeah, it's a thick one.
She served her mission in Louisiana,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she picked up on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
It's great. But he has to get a bath, and so it's like his annual bath, and she's a pretty good improver. She's taken like 6 years at the Fine Arts Center, and she describes the water getting this oily film, and that Boudreaux forgets to take his clothes off, and like everybody's running out of this bathhouse, and I put like bubbles and all sorts of fun sound effects in the background, and it's just hilarious. And a serious one, we recorded last weekend, so a little snippet. These episodes won't come out until September, so you'll probably forget. But we just had a moment where we met a necromancer that's actually not a bad guy, but is trying to put these souls that were wrongfully killed to rest by helping them finish their work before dying and stuff. And for those that Lila Garotha has 2 souls stuck in one
Yes.
body, and she got to ask some questions about her and how to become not 2 people. So that was not planned. I want to be that very clear. Was not planned at all. It just kind of happened, and this Boudreaux and Lila Garotha are really close, and there was this kind of, because Boudreaux grew up in the swamp where voodoo is a no-no. So there's this. There's really intense.
There's a separation between them because of that. Wow, that is really intense. I'll be honest. I was hoping you were gonna say when we played together, but like that's fine.
That was one too.
Okay, like you told me that you would never forget that your entire life, but like
I seriously will. I will never.
It's just too
forget
special to
DMing
share.
that.
It's too special to share.
I will never forget that moment, but that one was just so fresh. It only happened Saturday.
Just so you guys know, we had Abby and Dave on our show for like
NPCs.
4 or 5 weeks. And we did have
Almost
a really
6.
intense, almost 6, yeah. we had a really intense session where they met former partners and stuff in heaven, and it was
So
really
hard.
And Mikado.
It was really cool.
Mikade.
Minkade. Yes.
Anyway, Thomas, what do you have any fun thoughts on moments?
Yeah, so we had some really good moments in our podcast that made me as the DM just super excited or like emotional. One of the craziest ones is our party's favorite NPC. Their name is Mud. They're a kobold that has 3 teeth because they've been kicked in the face repeatedly.
That's
it's really sad.
horrible.
They're really mean to kobolds. Like the
Yeah.
cult of the dragon are really mean to the kobolds.
Yeah.
Husband is over here like fanboying. He's like, I know what you're talking about.
No, actually, I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
Not that.
Well, this little guy, you meet him and he was just made up on the spot. And it just really took, and it was just, they're like, oh, I go and talk to some kobolds, and I was like,
Thank
oh,
you,
okay,
Nettie
this is a
Roosevelt,
page.
for the follow. Sorry.
I didn't. Thank you. It was just one of those pages I didn't prepare for, and so I was like, well, they got to meet a kobold. What if this guy's got 3 teeth? and how would he sound and stuff. So that was a really fun moment, and everyone, like my players, asked me constantly when that character is going to, that NPC is going to come back, or if they're dead. And so of course I don't tell them anything because
No.
I know, yeah,
So-
I know that
The
I'm doing a good job.
mysterious is part of the fun.
Thomas,
Exactly. Yeah.
then I have to ask, how does a three-toothed kobold sound?
Well, Mud kind of talks like this. He just talks like a lisp the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Yes!
It was a ton of fun. When I started, because that voice just came from nowhere too. When we were recording, and so we edited like 5 minutes of just laughter out of the episode, just because
Laughter's hard to edit out too.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're like we've got to start telling a story again. This is absolute madness. What's going on right now? It was just a ton of fun. There's also some really beautiful moments. In game, very early on, Lance Thalen, he kind of is like this. He's like, oh, I'm all about me. I'm all about myself. But then he surprised me by finding a little girl very early on in the campaign and speaking to her. And in the moment, I was like, wow, that was a really good interaction between like Lance Thalen and this NPC. And then Mickey, who I just have to praise all the day long. She's our sound editor, and she makes our podcast actually sound good and makes me sound intelligible, and actually makes it worthwhile to listen. And she just had this beautiful, the sound editing where she just lets this slow music creep in. And the first time I heard it, I literally just started weeping with this interaction with Lance Thalen, this little girl. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because it was just so beautiful to give this extra layer of depth to the character that acting couldn't necessarily give. There was another layer underneath, and the music and the sound editing gave way to that. So it was just a beautiful moment just to see the podcast come together and the team all work together to get that moment as well.
It's incredible the extra element that music
Yes.
adds.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
Yes.
I told Haley about that moment actually.
Yeah, he did.
Because we dissect shows and what makes
What
good
makes things work?
actual plays, stuff like that. And one thing I brought up was a lot of it has to come from the players. The GM can't be the only person telling a story. And this was an instance where I saw a perfect example of a player who took a story and created a layer that wasn't part of what the GM was doing or the DM, and created this side story that didn't detract from what was happening, but gave an extra layer. And that was an example I gave to Haley just a week ago or so.
Yeah.
That exact story. And then you go find her dad and bring him back and all that stuff.
He's a fan
Absolutely.
of your show. I don't know if you can tell.
I'm just so
Wesley, what about
surprised that
me?
people even,
He
I'm just so
listens to
surprised
yours,
that people
too.
even
He
want
just-
to listen to our show, to be honest. So,
He binge listens to things though, and he binge watches
that's
things in full sets. So yeah, right now he's watching. What are you watching?
Oh, I was watching Stranger Things. I'm
Stranger
done with all of
Things,
them now.
season 4. Yeah, because
Nice.
that's the
No,
whole
but-
thing.
but Wes, you bring up a super good point that we had to explore, and we had to figure out as a cast as well of it can't all come from the DM and GM. One, because they'll get exhausted and they'll get just so drained
Burnt
so
out.
quickly if the story is coming from them only.
Mhm.
But then but it's so important for the players to dive in and to give their 2 cents and to make decisions that are a type of yes to the story. It's not just you told me I need to go to the city, so I'm going to go to bed or whatever. It's important for them to make those decisions.
That's
so
an
that
improv technique.
exactly
Yes.
that's
Yes,
the
and.
yes and element to it. But it's important that they make those strong decisions, because if they don't make the strong decisions, then they just are, and they're going wherever the DM is going. The story is not nearly going to be as fun. If one person's telling it, it's not going to be nearly as fun as if all 4 or 5 people are going to be telling the story, so to speak. And because
That's what draws to tabletop role-playing games, because it's a collaborative story. It's not just one person. And just to add on to that, it's so important in any campaign to have that cohesive working together for the story, but it's even more critical when you're homebrew because your
Yes.
characters' backgrounds and everything like is all mixed in to the story. You don't have to, and it's been. I'm also David's lore master, sort of. I get to hear the stuff I misespouse. I don't know everything, but like, actually, I don't know even a small chunk because David changes it every time.
That's good.
Yes.
Keep doing that.
Yes. But he keeps me guessing. But he has integrated all of our backstories into little elements of the main overarching story, and it is just it's so beautiful. I'm so excited.
I love taking the character's backstory and slapping him in the face with it.
Well, and Haley and I have an easier time because there's only one player, one PC at a time. So I get to make it.
So you
all
literally
about her.
get to just
I slap him in the face with it, like when I brought back his biological mother.
Oh, I remember that moment. Yeah.
I know, that was fun.
Weston was like, "What are you doing?
His reaction.
Don't do that."
If you ever go back and watch that actual episode, his reaction is hilarious. Like watching his eyes get huge. He's like, "No, that's not who that is." Like it's hilarious. Okay, Jerome, you had a question.
Well, actually, I was going to add to their commentary about favorite scenes and whatnot. I like springing surprises on my players, and there was one of the favorite things that I had. If I can get my players to giggle from a surprise and laugh, my job is done because I know that they're enjoying it. Obviously, not like break the whole thing up into laughter, but one of the scenes we were playing Mass Effect. And one of the players had come up and said, "Well, I've got this NPC," and he kind of left it vague, like he's like, "Okay, I've got this NPC. He's he's probably like a mercenary friend or something." Like, okay,
Is it Mass
you
Effect
left
tTRPG?
Yes.
Wait, this whole time I thought you were talking about an actual game, like video game. Really?
Yeah, no, there is. It's written to the 5e rules.
Oh.
So all I have to do is look that up and. Yeah, just look it up on Google. They've got an entire website. I mean, it's a pretty impressive site. But anyways, so he left a gigantic opening for me with that.
Huge, like
he didn't really
vagueness
define.
is like a DM's best friend.
Exactly. So I said, okay, so if anybody's familiar with the Mass Effect universe, I was like, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, what would be great? Okay, Krogan would be fun. And I'm like, because he's not going to expect that. And then I went, what can I do? I could probably do a voice. You know what? Krogan, Macho Man Randy Savage sounds fantastic.
Yes, it does.
and so
Can we get an expose?
Yeah. So exactly. So what happened was he comes walking in at one point because he called him in for help for fire support, and he turned to his friend. I forget the character's name, and he's like. What was it? Is it something effective like I asked him if it was raining, if the it's a takeoff of the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plane. Right. So basically, I came out and I was like, "I'm about to rain the pain all over this plane. Oh yeah!" and at that point, the Krogan charges directly into combat. He's losing it and giggling profusely, and actually almost missed his turn. Because he was laughing.
What?
Yeah, because he lost his place in the initiative, and so he's laughing and whatnot. And so I love doing stuff like that every so often. Especially if I can put a voice to it. But another scene that I really liked, and it meant a lot to me, was because the player, and this is credit to the player. She's also in the chat, I think. But the end sequence of this vampire in this particular season, I want to say it was like season 2, I think. Was it? Yeah, it was like season 2. Basically, she had she had just gotten married to an NPC, and the city's vampires were in a bind. It was two really big decisions that they had to make, and they had to go all in on one, and it meant the other one was going to be left untouched. And they knew both of them were going to be a problem. They just didn't know to what degree. And true to form, I don't treat the NPCs like they're omnipotent and they know everything too.
No.
I treated him as if, it was like, okay, well, I have this dirty, rotten vampire that I've experimented on, and I have developed this spell that I think is going to seal the problem of this haunted insane asylum, which was causing all kinds of problems. But in doing so, he was going to have to ultimately give up his life to do it. And
wait, this
she
is the
was
NPC
so,
that she married?
yes, the NPC that she married. So they were off doing a thing, and I wrote a specific end scene to that that season, and he was intended to actually die at that point because he was sacrificing everything to make sure that she lived and everybody else was safe, and she wasn't having it. So the next season, she wheeled and dealed with any vampire that knew necromantic magics and could cross over into the other side, and she went to go find him and bring him back.
Yes.
And I was
perfect.
yeah, I was
love
super
that.
impressed with that, and even when we were talking about it out of character, about the wrap up, to that particular story arc, she was like, in her mind's eye, that was like her fanfic and whatnot. So she couldn't have it go out like that. She was that vested in the character and that character's story. And I know you guys have experiences too, either as players or running games. It like kind of like what you just said before, Abby. Like it adds that next level element.
Yeah.
When another player is that vested in the game, it's not just the DM or ST kind of developing the story and coming up with a funny or serious plot or whatnot. They're that invested, and it just makes the world that much more rich and involved and like it's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels
I agree.
real.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, every single moment, for the most part, 90% of my moments that are memorable, that are exciting, that I actually remember from games, are a result of a player making a distinct choice that maybe was expected or not even expected. Either way, just them making the choice. If they go out and they make the choice and that decision, that's the stuff I remember the most. It's not me presenting the information. It's not me creating and gifting it to my players. It's them gifting me with their wonderful decisions in the world that they are creating, and I just happen to be a part of it. That's the stuff that is so much fun.
Yeah.
That and the memorable NPCs. Memorable
That too.
NPCs are
Yes.
always.
Yes.
Sir Michael is
Yeah,
pretty
I've got an NPC that I ran in a Firefly game that I ran for a bit that the players really liked. Actually, two of them.
Is there a TTRPG you haven't played, Jerome?
Not many. But the first one was a take off of Uncle from Red Dead Redemption 2, who his whole backstory was that if you're familiar with Firefly, his story was that he wanted to join the Independents. He couldn't. Most of his friends went off to fight, and they're all dead. And so he's like got this. Not that they didn't discover this, they discovered pieces of it. And so he's living in a bottle, and he's regretting life. And the players ended up, meeting him, and he's very passionate. They took him on. He had appropriate information to the area, and he was willing to share. But he was always going around, complaining about his lumbago, which is a sort of faux disease that Uncle complains about all the time to get out of work in Red Dead Redemption Online or Red Dead Redemption 2. So he was always going, my lumbago's just flaring up, sort of thing. And he would try to get out of, whatever it is was going on.
Sounds like Bobby off of Supernatural.
Oh my gosh, you idiot! Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, that
okay,
show.
I could kind of see it. I haven't seen all of Supernatural, but
I
get
haven't
where you're
either, but
coming
my
from.
husband has.
Yeah. And then the other character from that game was Governor Chakwas, and I played him off like Bill Clinton. So he's like, I have a job for you, so come in here, be quiet, like, sort of thing.
Now, have you done a Christopher Walken one?
I may have done a Christopher Walken on occasion.
Wow, you're good.
Yeah.
You can just flip it like that.
Man.
Wow.
That was another one I worked into a Street Fighter game at one point. He was just like a smarmy.
That's very appropriate, actually.
Yeah, he's like a smarmy fixer kind of guy that they'd have to go to for the information,
That's amazing.
But to my question, thank you, Jedi, for the voices. So to my question, it sounds like most everybody here has been playing a while, or you've had, or you may have had more interactions with a group of players or whatnot. I was kind of curious, have you ever had any difficult situations with players, and how have you resolved them?
Oh, yes.
Because I know I personally have had those issues from playing as long as I have, not
we have
only
major
with other
problems
storytellers,
with our
but
table.
as players.
We have
We have huge
I've
problems
got
with
a
our
player
table. We
in my
have.
campaign that I just don't know what to do with them. See,
They're a
See, I
pain in
opened
my
a can
side.
of worms on their side of things,
We can
We'll let
never
them
have
mute,
problems.
work it out.
I know exactly.
Well, the funny part is when we're playing and people in the chat legit think we're fighting. And we're like, we're not really fighting. It's okay. We're joking. Like, we literally have never gotten done with a
This is
session. with
part
being
of our
angry.
love language.
It is.
Yeah.
Killing my dog.
No, but it is. I'm very interested in this question because it's one thing that comes up a lot, and I honestly have to say,
we have not.
I don't know. I don't really
we've
only
never
play with
really-
her.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I have.
But I was curious your opinions on like, have you had those types of issues with anybody, and is it something that was just like a full stop, and you're done, or have you guys like tried to work it out or whatnot? And I'm just kind of curious, from that perspective.
I have a very specific moment in mind that I'm thinking of, and actually, I'm not going to say anything about that moment because it's been fixed. But we did DM interviews that really helped, because there was a moment where our DM, he had children sacrificed, and it was a total shock. Like, this is not in the podcast, but this is our friend's game.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that really like upset me because they were just leaving their kids out in the forest to be eaten by hags, basically, and I was just like,
the Witcher storyline there, or the
was not okay with it, and and we talked about it, and he now has a list of things that I have consented to, things that if I'm given a warning, and she did this with everybody in our group, and there's 9 people that plays.
That's a really large group of people.
It's a very large group, yes.
really intimidating. I don't think I could do it.
He does a really good job. He's really good. But he now has a list of things that, like, and I highly recommend anyone that has issues with anything to get the list of consents. List of things that don't ever bring this up, or list of things if you give me warning, then I'll be fine, but don't surprise me.
Yeah.
And then there's like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've had I totally agree with that. There's been ultimately what I think of all of my issues or have been a result of miscommunication, whether it's from the DM or from the players or player to player. not character to character, player to player sometimes. There's been some tension there, and it's usually all boiled down to either not having a session 0 or not establishing like these safeguards or things like that. But I also
Or just having a bad day.
Just having a bad day, sometimes it's like that too. And so sometimes I've held DM interviews outside of sessions as well, just to reestablish expectations. Like, hey, we set expectations in episode 0 or episode 1, but you're just trying to figure out your character. You're just trying to figure out how you work with the people at the table. And if you've never played with Bob or Steve over there, you're going to forget some of those expectations as you're trying to figure out how to jive. And so just reconnecting helps. But then also just during play, thankfully being an audio podcast, we can just check in and just be like, we'll edit this out. Are you doing good? Or is this something that we shouldn't go into? Or how can I help?
One of the bonuses of being audio only.
Yes. One of them.
Well, and being pre-recorded though too. Like that's
exactly
an entirely different, not to pick on Critical Role or whatnot, but like, that whole thing happened in between, happened during game and then took place, in the middle betwixt, sort of thing. So you kind of got the feel for some of that happened. But
are you talking the reason about why campaign 1?
Yeah. Early campaign
Ryan.
1.
Yeah, and I've had I personally, I guess I've been fortunate in the sense that I've still had issues, but for the most part, because I'm usually the game master that runs the games. I've usually kept the way I've got around it. I don't do the list sort of thing. I usually go more expectation based off the game that I'm going to be playing. So if you're going to be sitting down playing Firefly, for example, obviously no children sacrifice, not really a thing, but Reavers,
though.
Reavers are a thing, and so it could kind of get nasty, in a mix-up dust up there.
Reavers
so that's where I kind of
gross.
keep my expectation. They were. VTM, however, because it is a more mature game. I still don't use the list, but I have been blessed in the sense that I haven't had to do interviews because the people I tend to bring into the game. Scratch that. I have done it a little bit, but the people I tend to bring into the game are people I already know pretty well.
Yeah.
So I'm already a fairly good judge of character based on going, okay, I already know their sense of humor, or I kind of understand where they're coming from because we've talked about XYZ movie. But there have been a couple of people that we brought in that I didn't know. But again, the benefit there is they were brought in by somebody who did know them.
Yes.
So it was a matter of, okay, well, let's just sit down and let's have a chat and, let's all get to know one another. And I think one of my best players who's in my D&D as well as my vampire game, George, came through our friend Brittany. And he, his big thing is when he's playing vampire, because he plays a young vampire, he, anything weird that hits him, his catchphrase is, "It's my first day." He'll just like throw that in there real quick, in game, because he's playing up this partially, anxious character. But I was just curious because I've run into that. Like my first experience, and it's amazing I'm even playing role-playing games. I had your atypical bad storyteller, my very first dungeon master.
Oh, that's
this is a guy, I won't name his name, but this is a guy who would get a hold of it. Like if side chatter happened at the table, he didn't like it, but he wouldn't say anything. How you knew he didn't like it is he would take his thumb to a number 2 pencil and he would just keep doing that and keep chopping away.
Super passive aggressive.
Yes, and you knew if you really got on his nerves by how much lead was exposed by the time you realized the chatter
Oh my
was
goodness.
done.
That's hilarious. I just start throwing things at Weston if I'm unhappy.
Yeah, he also, when your
Dice,
character
pencils.
would die, would rip up your character sheet and throw it at you.
That didn't even reach me, babe. You're gonna have to try.
Yeah,
again.
he was very he was a poor game master, but he was the guy that introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons and subsequently everything else. So I lucked out at some point, but
in spite
in
of
spite,
him,
yes.
you still play.
Well, that's like, I know for our
Yeah.
next campaign, we want to bring on lots of guest stars,
Mm-hmm.
but it's thematically wise, it's heavy. Because we have the miasma, and the way that the game works is that the miasma that rises up on high chaos days will manifest your fears. It will manifest things, and so I want to use this to, explore and kind of expose the realities of triggers and things like that with mental health. And so when I bring people on the show, it's gonna be like, okay, so this is the way the miasma works. We want to make this something to where people can see. So maybe someone who has a similar trigger can connect with this. If that trigger suddenly was out in the world and you could beat it with a great sword, wouldn't that be better? But I'm gonna have to have that discussion of them of what's safe, what's not safe. Like what's something here that's real, but not so raw that you're gonna be uncomfortable on the show.
Yeah, well, it's like, what's the character's fears? What are the character's anxieties? The character, not you.
Well, there's both.
Right.
But if you're gonna write a character, don't write in real personal things that you're dealing with if it's too close to you.
Yeah, it's too
Me,
close.
on the other hand,
Or
doing
only
this-
include one.
Yeah, we're only
Two, not.
Not all.
Rude.
But yeah, and so that I know that idea is something. Interviews, probably whenever we have people come in and join the show in that campaign,
Yeah, we
I'm
should.
gonna have those every time, because I'm like, hey, this Valley Toss is all about exposing the truth of what mental health issues are like.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what this is, what things to expect, because it can get emotional, it can get heavy. But we don't want this to be unsafe.
Yeah, well, and the only reason that
Right.
we're able to really do it and go that vulnerable is because you're you and I'm me, and we're together.
And we're married. Yep.
We're married and we're bestie friends. It's true. Okay, so we're almost at time, and I want to respect your guys' time and our time because I have to go back still. So I want to end on just one question, and I would like everyone to answer this question because I feel like there's a lot of people that want to start podcasts, want to put creativity and their creations out in the world, but there might be something that's stopping them. So what would be the number one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start a podcast? Let's start with Jerome. Since you don't have a
starting with me.
podcast. Or a live stream.
Technically-
Podcast or live stream.
Because he has a list.
Technically, I do. I mean, if you just not pay attention to the video.
Just listen to it. Don't watch,
Just listen.
Don't watch the VODs.
Exactly. No. Don't try to be Critical Role. Flat out, just don't go into it thinking you're gonna have, all this big success, and you're gonna have all. Just do it, and just do it for the fun. That's exactly the reason why I did it. Be okay with the fact that you're probably not going to have a whole lot of people listening at first. You're
or
not
make
going to have.
money.
Or even
Or make money. Don't even come
Yeah.
into it trying to make money. Just
Mhm.
if you're gonna do this, do it because you want to have fun, and you're looking forward to potential interaction. Because I know one of the big draws for me, because when we live stream, I love when I get somebody, even if it's just one person. We've got at least one guy who hits up most of our streams, and he follows along and chats with us and whatnot, and that adds like a really cool element. Knowing that there's like a couple people out there, even if it's not a whole lot, it's just a couple people out there who's enjoying your content, and they aren't players. That's awesome. And if you can get to that, you've made it. So yeah, don't come into it with inflated expectations. Just do it for fun. And I guess the only other thing to add to that would be, don't be afraid to network. Get out there, meet some other people, and help each other out. Network.
Yep. If it wasn't for your wanting to network, this show wouldn't exist.
Well,
I know. I keep
guess
bringing
true,
that
but
back, but it's true. It would not exist.
Yeah, no.
So.
And I would like to think that I made some good friends out of the whole thing, just because I made that effort to just ping you guys after one show and say, hey, you guys want to do something like this?
I know. It's fun. We got to be nerds on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial together.
Yeah. This is true.
Because I knew like one other person that was nerding out about it, and that was it. All right, Thomas, how would you answer that question?
I mean, I would 100% say do it for yourself. Don't do it for, don't necessarily do it for fame, for glory, for money. Do it for you because it's something that you feel passionate about, or it's a story you feel needs to be told that's not already being told. Like, there's a lot of stories already being told about modules already from Wizards of the Coast for D&D, but we felt our story was unique enough to where it was worth investing the time. And yeah, we just kept telling it to ourselves, like, you know, it's just cool that people are listening. It's you know, we didn't expect anybody to listen to for any of our episodes, and we just kind of keep that expectation because, you know, that's not why you do it, or at least it's helped us keep the fire, keep the excitement as we keep going along, because we're excited about the content. And with that, I'll just say, if you can, get somebody very close to you, a special someone if you can, who supports you, because if it weren't for my wife literally buying me a microphone when I asked her not to, and literally getting me these books and the material to actually do a podcast, and pushing me over the edge in a encouraging, loving way, then I wouldn't be doing it. I'd still be twiddling my thumbs, being like, I don't know enough, I don't have enough experience, I don't this, I don't that.
Yeah. I was that wife as well.
yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, absolutely.
I was too,
just get somebody to, if you absolutely need, get somebody who you care about, trust, and have them be your cheerleader to get you started, because once you get started, it's easy to keep going.
Yeah, it is. And I would like to second that, is that if you have somebody who can remind you why you started it.
Yeah.
Because I am a really, really bad viewer of the numbers. I get really stuck on the numbers and where I want to be versus where we are, and where I thought we would be at a year versus where we are.
And all I say is, hey, I'm going to be downstairs on this day, so you're welcome to join me.
Yeah, because I almost quit last October, and he was like, I'm going to be here Monday night. I would love it if you would come join me. And I was like, stop being so wonderful. Okay.
Abby, what
Abby,
advice?
yeah.
Okay. Besides doing it for fun, having support, and not focusing on the numbers, I would say do your research.
Yeah.
And set realistic expectations of yourselves. We only release bi-weekly because we knew we couldn't release weekly without burning out.
Same here.
Like, and be upfront with your audience, like, if you can't, and not just upfront on social medias, but like let them know what to expect. Like, just as a really quick example, when we had bad audio in our first 3 episodes, we had a little thing at the beginning saying, we do have a little bit of distortion, it's been fixed, ignore it. Like, it's not going to continue.
Get through to episode 4 and
everything's great, yeah.
And there's
Which
a
is
lot
pretty
of
typical, actually, for a lot of the podcasts I've come across, and it's so nice to go into knowing that that's not an expectation that you have to do the whole campaign.
If you
get through it,
set those proper expectations for your goals, and for your releases. Because if you set those expectations and stick to them, that's
where you do well.
Realistically. There's a lot of, don't go out and pay someone to teach you how to podcast.
No.
There is way too much free stuff. Also, like, get on Twitter, type in podcasts. There's like probably YouTube. 1 billion people on there that are willing to help you, even walk you through it. Yeah. Because
there's a great community.
Doesn't just change other people's lives that listen to it. It changes the podcasters. Yeah, like, it changes the people who make the content. Exactly. And Sorry. I'll get off
No.
my soapbox.
No, you're good.
No,
Weston,
all good points.
Weston,
Yeah.
what is your number one piece
All right,
of
so
advice?
my piece of advice. I gotta
Oh my
stand up
gosh,
for
he's
this.
like, do you want me?
Just do it.
Just do it! Yes!
I had to do the
You
Shia
can
LaBeouf,
do it.
just do it. Here's the thing: you're gonna suck at the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not gonna know what you're doing. Your tech isn't gonna work. You're gonna have issues. If
Mhm.
you're
Yep.
waiting
Don't
for the
give
perfect,
up.
Yeah, if you're waiting for the perfect setup, it will never happen until you get in there
Right.
and start doing stuff and figure out what works.
Yeah.
This is something that you learn as you do it. I mean,
Yep.
heck, if you've got tons of money, go purchase the whole studio. Okay, fine, but then you still
We
have to
do
figure out
know
how to
one
learn.
person who did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you do still generally though have to then learn how to use the equipment.
Yeah.
And they just hired producers, so they still don't know how to use their
Yes,
equipment.
but for the most of us, just do it. Do a little bit of research to get something that's worth your money, at least. Because there's some like you don't have to buy top of the line.
Use your friends. I'm sure you have a friend somewhere that knows what equipment to buy.
Yes. Pace yourself.
That's the
for
only
sure.
reason why we got our stuff.
Or shoot us a message on all the social media webs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
'cause
There
we
you
would
go.
be all more than happy to tell you which microphones are not worth the $500 and which ones might possibly be.
Well, and there's that question of like, there's a level of quality that is good.
Mhm.
Then there's that level of quality that's amazing. And let's be honest, for most of us, we don't need that top tier.
We're not Critical Role.
We-
This goes back
we
to
rec-
you, Jerome. You don't
we
need to be
record-
Critical Role.
We record on $25 mics, guys.
Our most expensive mic is $100.
But you got this a long time ago for other reasons.
That is also very true. Anyway,
All right.
awesome. Well, that is the Family Gaming Experience this evening. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's do one last little roundup of who you are, where you're from, where they can find you, and I will drop all of your links in the chat. Let's start this time with Abby.
I'm Abby from Tomes of the Chaos Bard. I play Henley. I am the wife of DM Dave. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook for our socials, all at Tomes of the Chaos Bard. And at any podcast place.
Podcatcher,
And if
podcast
I'm not there,
platform.
email me at chaosbardpod@gmail.com and I will fix it.
She said that with authority. She's like,
She's like, I will make sure it happens. All right, Thomas.
Yeah, so I'm Thomas. I'm from iCast Fireball. I'm the DM there. We have an ongoing Tyranny of Campaigns D&D 5e adventure that we got going on. It's a ton of fun. Wacky shenanigans ensue. Come join us every week on any podcatcher as well. Did it what Abby said. Shoot us a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at iCastFireball20, or shoot us an email at icastfireball2020@gmail.com. And we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear what you're doing.
Awesome. Jerome.
the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. The sky's the limit and space is the place. Oh yeah.
You are not
my name
allowed
is
to
Jerome.
speak ever again. Not
Never
speaking
worse.
that way. I don't
Okay.
ever want to
Be
hear
all
your normal
you
voice
want.
again.
You just walk in and he can do-
I know I should be doing my wrap up, but that was actually my end villain for the very merry Elder Christmas for some elders that I ran their very first Dungeons and Dragons game.
Aw.
So I riffed and did a wrestling promo as Randy Macho Man Savage, who was this undead creature who came up to threaten them with their lives, sort of thing. But anyways,
That's awesome.
you can find those two clips actually on YouTube for Lost Tribes Gaming. As well as our Vampire and Marvel games at Lost Tribes Gaming here on Twitch.tv. I am Jerome, and I'm also with Family Gaming Exeprience. Thank you and good night.
Weston.
I'm Weston Bell. Of course, you can find me with Party of Two. On Twitter, it's Party of Two RPG Live. Same thing on YouTube. You can see the VODs for all of our different, our persistent campaign of the Scions, our Tabletop Terrain Talks, where we talk about tabletop gaming, terrain, and other nerdy things.
And next week, this show.
And next week, this show. And Haley.
And Haley. I am Haley Bell. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and have a fun time playing games with your family. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good
Good night, y'all.